Welcome, Professor Marc. Great. Nice to have you with us this afternoon. My name is Segun Adaju. It's a great pleasure to be part of this program. I oversee the renewable energy sector in Nigeria as the president of the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria. And this afternoon, we have Professor Marc Rosen with us, the man who has deep experience in research, especially around the private sector on renewable energy across the globe. So welcome, Professor Marc.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. Quickly, I have a few questions I would like to ask you for our audience. And the first will be that, I've seen your experience around the works you've done, especially on multinational corporations around renewable energy. So my first question will be, how can multinational corporations ramp up renewable energy in developing countries? And what government policies could incentivize the transition of multinational corporations to renewable energy?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. First, I'll mention it is indeed a pleasure for me to be here and to be able to speak with you, Segun. It's a pleasure to be on at this conference, and I want to thank Adenike Kinsimolu for having me here. Regarding the question, it's an interesting question. What can multinational corporations do to help with renewable energy? I think in many ways they are really well suited to help. Multinationals, by the nature of the breadth, do a lot of work, and when they're involved in energy and renewable energies, they bring strong expertise to the table. They learn the expertise, they develop the expertise where it makes the most sense, maybe where it makes the biggest economic profit for them at the time. But once they have that expertise, it's easy to extend it, to share it, to use it in other places where maybe it wouldn't have been a first choice. I feel that multinationals can take new technologies, they develop new solar, new wind, new geothermal, and apply in different areas where they do work anyways and have relations, and find ways to make those technologies work. Maybe they can find ways to make economic arguments that work. Maybe it's not economics. Maybe there's environmental prerogatives or incentives that make more sense, but to take advantage of those and to tailor the work they've done in one country to work in another. You also asked about government policies. I think governments need to help here a lot. Governments need to have incentives, I think, where it is in the long-term interest of a country to have renewable energy. There may be short-term difficulties. Prices may make it economically not that useful right now or beneficial right now, but that doesn't mean in 10 or 20 years that won't be the case, and you want those to come on board, those renewable energies to come on board. Equally, in terms of issues like climate change, the more that governments can do to allow sharing of credits for work done, so that from Canada, a government incentive to improve emissions of CO2 here may be better spent in another country where the bang for the buck might be bigger. They can help by allowing that and crediting that, I think.
Great. Thank you so much, Prof. Because the multinationals, they've shown expertise in other areas, so they can bring that strong expertise into this space. And also, they have proven economics in their business model of where they're operating. I also agree, government also in their own interests to meeting the Paris agreements and then solve issues of climate change. it is in their own best interest also to incentivize the sector. Right. Thank you so much, Prof.
I agree.
My second question would be, so what do you see as the role of the private sector in accelerating the growth of renewable energy? And I would like to put a context to this while I'm asking you this question. I saw that you've done over 70 research and contracts and over 900 technical publications, and mostly around industry. So you must have seen the role that private sector can play in this space. What do you think?
Okay, thank you again. That's a very interesting question. In some ways, it extends on the previous one, but it can be, of course, its own. Private investment is interesting. Dealing with companies, big and small, they're much more careful. It's their money. They don't want to put their money out unless there is something beneficial coming back to them. Otherwise, they can't answer to their bosses and owners. They can't answer to their shareholders, depending on how the structure of the company is set up. When it comes to helping, private companies are also very good at looking for the low-hanging fruit, the beneficial opportunities that they can sense make sense for them. They don't need to worry about perhaps the world or a country. They look for their own interests, and there often are unique niches where certain renewable energies make sense. It might be a type of renewable energy in a particular environment because, say, geothermal resources are available, or you have particularly good sunshine or wind resources, and a private company is very well suited to say, we see an opportunity for us. Also, private companies can, when they're willing, and this is not easy, this is difficult, look long-term. They often look for a return within a year, 2 years at most on an investment. But where they see an investment that pays off, say, in 5 or 10 years, as is often necessary for renewable energy resources that have large upfront capital costs, private companies can decide we're willing to wait. We see the investment benefit, we understand the benefit for the company, we understand it will take time, and they can move. They can move quite aggressively on opportunities where they think it's in the long-term interest for the company. So I think private investment can be particularly good. I've seen that work. I've seen it fall apart too. I've seen many companies say, sorry, that's too much of a stretch. It's too much of a risk. It's too much of an uncertainty. But other times I've seen it work. I had meetings yesterday where we basically have approved moving ahead on 2 wind projects, wind energy, 3 solar related projects in Canada, where we don't have as much sunshine, but we still can make it work economically. And our energy prices for fossil fuels aren't as high as in Europe or Asia or many other countries, but we still can make them work. And a private approach seems to be sensible there.
Thank you so much, Prof. I quite agree with you. Also knowing well that private capital also flows towards the efficient use of investment, and looking for opportunities. Then they might apply their capital efficiently to achieve more leverage than maybe public sector funding. So I agree with you. My third question is that, and I believe you have seen the documentary Planet of the Humans, produced by Michael Moore and directed by Jeff Gibbs. Yeah. So, I mean, most say it's controversial, and he has intensified, skepticism and arose suspicions on the renewable energy industry as a conspiracy. What impact has this created on the renewable energy industry? That's one. And does this forestall the transition to a global economy powered by renewable energy?
Thank you. That's a very loaded question. Lots of interesting ideas embedded in that. Yes, I have seen, as I mentioned, the documentary, and I found it fascinating and interesting to watch. I can understand how it raises skepticism. I can understand suspicion flowing from it and downright feelings that there are conspiracies within the renewable energy sector. Yet, overall, I found it entertaining, but not factual in so many ways. I basically found that the movie has taken many issues that we know of, that we struggle with in the renewable energy research and industry game, and are working on trying to improve. But the movie seems to take those and assume they were hidden from the public and point them out as hidden negatives. When it comes to energy, there is no perfect solution. There is no ideal. If there was, I'm pretty sure we're not that stupid. We would have taken advantage of it and everybody would be using it 100%. But every energy form, be it conventionals, be it renewables, be it other types, have negatives as well as their positives. And we're continually struggling to improve the positives and get rid of, mitigate, alleviate, avoid entirely where possible the negatives. We know that they're there. They're not hidden. Okay, maybe some people in trying to sell renewable energy stress the positives and don't elaborate on the negatives. But I don't think I've seen people, researchers, practitioners that I work with, deny that the negatives are there. They are there. For instance, the movie talks about renewable technologies not lasting forever, that they have to be replaced. Well, of course. You can't build a wind turbine or a solar collector or any other technology and expect it to last forever. But we build that into the analysis. We use life cycle analysis tools to look at the energy and environmental impacts throughout the life, as well as the construction, as well as the decommissioning. And that's what we compare to, say, coal or oil or gas technologies treated the same way. And when there's a net benefit, we pointed out sometimes there's a net negative benefit. It's not worth doing. And we try not to move on those technologies. So I think the movie exaggerates negatives that we all are aware of and understand. Maybe the public isn't that aware of it, but the public needs continual education, perhaps, to learn more. You also ask, what impact might the movie have on renewable energy? I'm sure it hurts in many ways because it presents items as if they're actual when I think many of them are not. Oh, that's not to say that renewable energy can't be done badly. You can take biomass. Biomass is not inherently renewable. It's renewable if we use it at a rate less than we replenish it. If we cut it down faster than it's replenished, it's finite in nature. It will be gone. So we can use renewable energy badly. That applies to conventionals as well as renewables. If we handle them well, I don't think we run into those problems, but we have to be careful. So the impact, of course, it exaggerates the negatives. I think it will hurt. But in the long term, the benefits of renewable energy, where they exist, are there. Companies look past that. Governments look past that. And I think most people still want what makes the most sense in terms of clean energy, available and reliable energy, economically affordable, environmentally non-intrusive energy, and renewables have those benefits, and in the longer term, they will probably prevail in each in their own ways, in their own environments, I think.
Thank you so much, Prof. Absolutely, I share your views. For example, every technology has its own positives and negatives. Okay, so for example, in Nigeria, what we do is to try to weigh which has more positives. Okay, and one yardstick we use is what we call the levelized cost of electricity, and taking into consideration all the additional costs. Okay, both economic, social, environmental, and that's where renewables seems to have advantages over other technologies. So I agree. The movie, is really controversial. When I also watched it, I felt the same. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So I'll go to other questions before we throw up, questions to the question time to the audience.
Okay.
Okay, so Abbas, do you want to ask a question now? Hello, Abbas. Okay, right. So, yes, Abbas, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Natasha. So I'll do my question before Abbas's question. It's really nice to be on this call with you. I actually have a couple questions, but I'll just start with this one for now. The cost of solar has reduced dramatically in the past 30, 40 years. And I'm just wondering how this might impact those that want to go into the industry on a for-profit level, if we're going to see the same level of investment from private sector organizations, investors.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Natasha. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's an interesting question. Yes, I agree with you fully. The costs of solar energy have declined incredibly over the last decades, and at a rate I think that was faster than we had anticipated in many ways. What will we see in the future? I think it bodes incredibly well for solar technologies. The prices probably can't keep dropping at the same rate. They will start to smooth out, level off, but the prices in many jurisdictions went from becoming more expensive than conventional fossil fuels to cheaper without government incentives, without assistance. And in those locations, solar energy already is being quite widely adopted. In others, governments are looking forward saying, yeah, we see the long-term benefit and the prices dropping continually. We think we're going there. We need that industry to get going, and they've incented to make sure the industry gets a foothold and starts getting into countries where solar doesn't make sense right now, but should make sense in 5 or 10 years. In my province in Ontario, Canada, we have a feed-in tariff program that allows subsidies for solar and wind energy, and it's boosted a lot of production because our fossil fuel prices are low enough that the renewables don't make sense on their own yet. But that's to help get the industry going, because I think we see in the longer run the benefits will far outweigh the negatives, and probably the economics will shift. I hope I've addressed your question.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Take Abbas's question.
Yes. So we have a question from Abbas, and it says, "Hi, you want to go ahead?"
Oh, yeah, sure. So what is the role of renewable energy in rebuilding the global economy post-COVID-19 era?
I figured somebody's going to raise that issue. Everybody's wondering what the COVID-19 issue does to everything. So yeah, COVID, of course, is having a remarkably profound effect on, I think, all aspects of our lives. Renewable energy, personally, I don't think it's a particularly helpful event. COVID-19 has caused industrial activity to come screaming to a halt, energy use to drop consequently quite a bit, probably leaving gluts that we see on oil markets, for instance, and prices dropping consequently. Many renewable projects being looked at by companies in the short term, they've looked and they said, not now. Not now. We're looking at energy prices are down because of the COVID situation, and maybe it's only going to last months, maybe a year, maybe multiple years. We need that to settle out because we see energy prices declining due to surpluses of fossil fuels existing now. We can't compete as well in as many jurisdictions. And I think that's inevitable. The benefits, the environmental benefits, well, if people aren't burning other energy as much, we've seen environmental improvements from non-activity. In the longer term, I still think the benefits of renewable energy will prevail. People are so concerned with COVID-19 now that they're not thinking of other things, but I don't think that means they don't care that when we get through this, and all indications are we will, that environmental concerns and other concerns still exist, and people want us to make sure that we're in tune with that, and that we don't drop the ball to deal with COVID on every other issue, and that we keep focused on areas like renewables. But I do see a delay. Most of the projects I've seen people move on do see delays. The other big problem here is uncertainty. The COVID-19 situation basically is unprecedented, everyone tells me. Everyone I've spoken to says, not in my lifetime have I seen anything like this, from kids right through to the oldest seniors that I've spoken to. So there's uncertainty. The medical community struggling with exactly understanding what's going to happen. Will there be multiple waves in the future? How bad might they be? Industry hates uncertainty. They love making investments where they can foresee that this is profitable over 10 years. We're willing to wait. We're willing to invest right now. But the uncertainty leaves them all with their hands in the air going, I'm not quite sure what we need to do, what we should do now that makes sense. Let's wait till we get a little more certainty in the situation, regarding the situation. Now, other sectors may see opportunities here. I don't think it's a renewable one, but telecommunications, for instance, I was dealing with a company earlier this week. They're planning on actively ramping up their activities, saying, people are going to need broadband access, not just for their companies and adequate for their homes. If more people are working out of home, they're going to need much more powerful broadband access and internet at home. Consequently, that activity is ramping up, and they're aggressively moving forward on projects right now. But renewables, I think, are going to take a delaying type hit.
Thank you so much, Natasha and Abbas, for the questions, and thanks, Prof, for your response. Okay, so just a few lines. Our experience in Nigeria shows that, for example, renewable energy became, more relevant during this period because we saw isolation centers quickly going renewables in 48, 72 hours. Mm-hmm. And that was the only way we could quickly deploy power to those centers. And I think the government of Nigeria has seen that, and it's really moving towards that direction. Yesterday, we got a memo approved by government removing subsidies on fossil fuel. And that has been a major advocacy that industry player has been making over the years. Right. So that shows, where the nation might be going towards after COVID-19. Okay, so we need to begin to round up, and I have one more important question I'd like to put across to Prof. Dr. Akinshemolu, in her book, The Principles of Green and Sustainability Science, enumerated emerging renewable energy technologies to include, for example, solar glass, thorium nuclear reactors, cellulosic ethanol, space-based solar power, fuel cell electric vehicles, and the likes. How can these technologies be subsidized? And then how can they be scaled?
Thank you very much. Yes, I've read Dr. Akinshemolu's book, and I found it actually very fascinating, an incredibly good book, and I enjoyed it very much. She does point out some of those emerging technologies, and some of those are some of the toughest. The emerging technologies are on the front end. They're still undergoing development, research and development. They may pan out, they may not. Thorium reactors, great potential. Thorium is much more widely available, could last us incredibly long time, no carbon dioxide emissions. The solar glass, a different type of technology, transparent glass, can be put up virtually anywhere that we have windows. Great opportunity to recover energy, still while not having to use, say, rooftops exclusively or ground mount solar systems. Cellulosic ethanol has its own benefits you mentioned. I think you also mentioned fuel cells for vehicles, and great potential there. It's a great battle going on there between electric vehicles on where they use renewable electricity versus fuel cell vehicles that use hydrogen. Again, the hope is that it would be produced from renewable energies instead of from fossil fuels like we produce hydrogen today. And a competition there, I've read reports that, well, we've seen electric vehicles make incredible advances. I've read reports talking about hydrogen vehicles winning economically in the competition in about 20 years' time. So the question of what to do with these, I think they need subsidy, they need research and development to bring them to commercial potential. All of these have enough benefits that they're worth looking at. The research is how we look at them and determine whether the negatives kill them or outweigh them in the long run, or whether the positives prevail and the negatives can be offset, mitigated, somehow managed. And then we look at, once we know we have something working, we look at scalability. Can we commercialize it? Can we make many of them, drive the prices down, and have many implementation sites, different countries that find them, particular ones, beneficial? And with that, I think then subsidies are needed for new technologies, not infinite subsidies. They have to be proportional to the benefits that those technologies present, and where they don't pan out, the subsidization through research can be cut off. Where they have huge benefits, we need to create a commercial market. Of course, subsidies may be necessary, but that's a standard way for government to start up, to kickstart any new technology, be it an energy or other new technology that shows benefits for society. Let's see, did I cover your question? I think I did. I'll stop there.
Yes, I think we're out of time, and I'll say thank you, Prof, for your time. It's been nice having this with you, and I believe we would follow up with further conversation. And for our viewers and listeners, say thank you for joining us. We're bringing this session to a close now. Thank you, Prof.
Well, thank you very much, Sagan. It's been a true pleasure. I enjoyed it and appreciate your assistance as well.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.